Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Eva Segerblom is here. She's the president of the Nevada Justice Association. Here for the whole show, got an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room of the Nevada Builders Alliance. Coverage of the 2025 legislative session is brought to you by Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. NV Energy, proudly serving Nevada, providing electricity to 2.4 million electric customers. The Retail Association of Nevada, looking out for business. And by Story County, helping build Nevada's future.
The trucking industry is the most resilient link in the supply chain. And for over 90 years, the Nevada Trucking Association has been the voice for the men and women in the trucking industry. From Carson City to Washington, D.C., we advocate for policies to protect our trucking companies and keep commerce flowing. Because Nevada's and America's prosperity is tied to trucks. There's nothing without trucking.
Meet Nevada Health Link, Nevada's official health insurance marketplace. Your link to savings, selection, free assistance, and name brand health insurance, where 90% of enrollees lower the cost of their monthly premium. Everyone deserves access to quality health coverage, no matter your income or family size. Visit NevadaHealthLink.com. A few minutes could save you hundreds of dollars per month.
Nevada Health Link. Our plans are made for your plans.
A power line is more than a power line. It's maintaining the bottom line for small businesses. It's keeping the assembly line moving for our workforce. For our brightest minds, it's meeting a deadline. It's on the front line with our heroes. And on the sidelines of the biggest games. It's a direct line to our loved ones. And it's a lifeline for the most vulnerable. There's a lot on the line.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from Carson City, from the home of the Nevada Builders Alliance. We are pleased to welcome back to the program Eva Segerblom. She is the president of the Nevada Justice Association, formerly known as the Trial Lawyers Association. Pleasure to have you back on the program.
Thank you, Sam.
Let's start out with what are the biggest issues for you, your organization, at this legislative session?
Sure. Obviously, when the session started, we were still in our big Uber fight.
Okay, for those that are not familiar with this, because this was a really big deal, explain what the situation was and how it got resolved.
Sure. So Uber had done a ballot petition to cap all attorneys' fees for contingency at 20%, and that was after costs. So this was kind of an extinction event for our industry. So they qualified the signatures, and then we appealed to the Nevada Supreme Court after being in the court here in Carson City. And the Nevada Supreme Court found that the ballot petition was misleading and basically said that it wasn't going to be on the next ballot. But in the interim, with the help of the governor, Senate Majority Leader Cannizzaro and Speaker Yeager, we went back and forth with Uber about what is it that you really want. They really wanted to avoid certain types of liability.
For example?
For example, they wanted to not automatically be liable themselves as a company if one of their drivers was involved in an accident. And so we were able to basically work on some language to come to a deal, again, with all those people's help and meeting with them several times and going back and forth on language many times at the beginning of the session to limit their liability in certain instances, but then also increase insurance for something like Uber Eats. So if an Uber Eats driver gets into an accident, there's now increased insurance coverage in those situations. So, as we say as trial lawyers, when both sides are unhappy, that's a good settlement.
Right.
That's what I would say here. Both sides are slightly unhappy, but we're happy that there's been a resolution because we had a lot of bills that were targeting Uber. They had a lot of bills targeting us, and those were all withdrawn as part of this deal, and we're moving forward to focus on other things in the session.
Okay, so what was the, all right, so at this point, who actually pays the insurance? Is it the Uber drivers or Uber themselves, or both?
It's the Uber drivers, and so their Uber has its own insurance, and that's only available obviously in certain circumstances. So it's kind of a combination, and it really depends on the facts of the accident, how it happens, what exactly went on as to what sorts of coverage might be available.
All right, and this is not a permanent solution. This is a term deal. How long does this deal last?
So we have a stand down for next 3 sessions, essentially. And so
a 6-year deal.
Yes. And so, I think a lot of things will happen. Obviously, who knows what will be happening in tech in 6 years? Who knows what will be happening for us in 6 years? But we think it's a win because, again, we're getting some increased coverage for certain types of accidents. We have certainty, and we have this stand down.
Is it unusual to have, a 3-session deal?
It's a bit long, but we have done deals in the past, for example, with contractors, for example, in MedMal. We have had agreed to stand downs to just, let's see if the deal that we achieved works, basically, and not automatically come at each other with guns blazing at the next session. So it is long, but I think it's fair given, what was happening on both sides. Like I said, for them proposing an extinction event, and we were just going to have to respond accordingly.
It's interesting to see in all kinds of situations across the country and around the world, literally, actually. You've seen these battles between, trial lawyers and these huge corporations. It's not just where you're dealing with a state organization, but you're dealing with multi-billion-dollar organizations. How has that changed the face of the work that you guys do?
I think it just makes what we do more important because you don't have anyone else to kind of challenge those large corporations especially right now with what's going on in the federal government and a lot of oversight changing. The only way to kind of challenge a lot of these corporations, and if they're harming people, is to have trial lawyers take them to court. And that's why what we do is probably more important now than it's ever been, because we are looking out for the consumer. We are looking out for the average person who is harmed by these corporations, and we're not too scared to take them on.
Does it mean that you have to charge your potential clients a fee rather than doing things on contingency because you're not as assured that you're going to get a settlement?
I mean, every attorney is different in terms of what they do and what, in terms of how they get clients and how they contract with clients. But I can tell you from my perspective and what we do, we haven't charged a fee. We're still doing things on contingency. And that's because, most people don't have the funds when they're injured to pay an attorney out of pocket.
Let's talk about, because Paulinos from the Nevada Trucking Association was on here with State Senator Ira Hansen last week. The Trucking Association supported Uber in this deal. And, I wanted to get your thoughts on that whole situation because the Trucking Association urges rejection of Senate Bill 180, citing harm to families and local businesses. So what's the other side of this story? We heard Paul's story aside. Let's hear yours.
Sure. So just look at kind of the perspective is that I think Uber reached out to a lot of industries and they didn't support them, but trucking chose to. Unrelated to that, though, is the fact that it's been nearly 40 years since there's been an increase in the minimum insurance that trucks have to carry.
This was a huge increase.
It's not that bad, really, when you look at.
Well, if you're not a trucking company.
Well, no, but if you look at other types of insurance and other minimums required, it's lower than a lot of things. It's lower than the deal we got with Uber. And when you have a truck accident, it's catastrophic. I mean, so the amount of coverage required was not sufficient. People were being, severely injured, catastrophically injured, or even killed in these types of accidents. And we're just trying to raise the policy limits so that there's more coverage for these people that are victims of these types of accidents. Again, it's been nearly 40 years since there was an increase to this minimum, and that's a long time. And obviously, the price of everything has severely increased in the past 40 years.
Okay, I guess one of Paul's biggest points, and the industry obviously that he represents, was that this was an in-state deal. It did not affect companies that were working across the nation, so intrastate rather than out of state. That doesn't seem like that was a fair situation. It just seems like it was payback.
Well, no, really, we don't have the jurisdiction to do something federally. I think that if it works here, that it could be instructive for them to pass a higher federal mandate for, again, minimum insurance coverage. In our research, we found that most trucks already have this coverage, this level of coverage, but we're just trying to make it a standard.
They talk about the fact that, just as far as the number goes, this doubles the Nevada truckers insurance from $750,000 to $1.5 million by 2030. It just seems like a huge jump.
It's really not. Again, when you look at, that minimum was set in place nearly 40 years ago, there's nothing that's the same price as it was 40 years ago. And when you look at really what's needed in these types of accidents, it's kind of low.
One of the other things they talked about was higher costs for Nevada families in terms of, as you know, everything's delivered by trucks. It's well over 90%. And so this is going to raise the prices for everyday goods like groceries, fuel, household essentials, and small carriers especially would be unable to absorb these costs. Do you not agree with that? I
don't agree with that. I don't think they've really proven that. I think that, we've tried to reach out to them to talk about this before it began. Since it's began, they refused to talk to us. But in talking to, again, in our research, really most trucks already have this sort of minimum, and it's not going to be a huge increase to premiums to obtain this minimum, especially if it's a statewide standard. That will make the prices go down for people to access this increased coverage, and it's really to protect them if they're in an accident.
Where are we with this bill at this point?
So it has gotten through committee, and we are waiting, obviously, for it to be passed on the floor.
One of the things that's interesting, of course, in this session as it was in the last session, but perhaps more so this session, is that the Democrats obviously are in major control of both houses. And, the Republicans really don't have very much of a voice except to speak publicly. But, it doesn't get to the governor's desk if the Democrats don't want it to. But if they do, have there been discussions between the trial lawyers and the governor to see where he stands on this?
Not on this particular bill, no. And we're still trying to have those conversations and still trying to navigate, because even though there may be a Democratic majority in the Senate and the Assembly, obviously the buck stops with the governor. And so we want to have those conversations with him. It's still evolving. We're still trying to see if stakeholders will have a voice in this. Beyond, just injured victims, and see if we can come to a resolution that the governor would live with.
What other stakeholders are there beyond the Trucking Association or the truckers, I should say, not just the association, and the lawyers?
Insurance. I mean, again, insurance drives everything, and you would think that having an increased minimum would be good for them because they have to write additional policies, but we still want their voice in the bill, and we still want to talk to trucking. So far, again, like I said, they have refused to talk to us.
Okay, I have telephone numbers I can share with you. Let's take a break. We'll come back more with Eva Segerblom, president of the Nevada Justice Association, after this timeout.
What is that?
That's the governor's funding bill for education.
It looks pretty flat. Wasn't there a plan to increase funding for our schools?
Yeah, but the governor's ignoring it.
We have to pass the plan.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
What is that?
That's the governor's funding bill for education.
It looks pretty flat. Wasn't there a plan to increase funding for our schools?
Yeah, but the governor's ignoring it.
We have to pass the plan.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Eva Segerblom. She's the president of the Nevada Justice Association, and I would be doing a disservice to not say that you are the daughter of Tick Segerblom, the county commissioner, who is a frequent guest on this program.
I am.
Okay, so what other issues are the big issues? I mean, I was looking at the website. Obviously, opposing caps on attorneys' fees is a big issue for you guys. Is that an issue at this session?
No, we don't think so now that we have reached the deal with Uber, and then Senator Hansen actually had a bill to kind of codify capping attorneys' fees, but it did not pass the deadline, so it's dead for now.
Yes, although of course it's the legislature, which means dead things can come back at any time.
True, true.
Medical malpractice reform, is that an issue?
No,
this
so
session?
because last session we reached a deal, we have a stand down for this session, so no medical malpractice issues this session.
Defending against anti-tort legislation.
I think that's always a concern, especially that's a big trend nationwide, and I think we're seeing a lot of that in Congress right now. But specifically as to this session, no.
Advocating for consumer protection, that would seem like that's an ongoing thing.
That's an ongoing thing. We're always trying to obviously advocate for consumer protection. I think the biggest tie-ins with that and our other main focus aside from trucking this session is workers' compensation. And we are trying to fix 2 different areas in workers' compensation and spending a lot of time on that area.
With the changeover because of term limits, which just seems to have accelerated so much in the last few years. After every election, I look at the committee lists, and I'm shocked by how many people I don't know and have to get to know. So how is it with educating and supporting these legislators?
I think that's one of our biggest things that we spend time on, is even when people are running, trying to get to know them. We always have interviews with anyone that's interested in what we do in our organization. Sometimes we have site visits, like for example, in my industry, construction defect, we've taken new legislators or even people running out to homes that have defects to show them, kind of what we're advocating for. And so that's a constant thing that we spend unpaid time on, in trying to get to know these legislators, finding out what's important to them, if we can help them. And we always just try to be a resource. I think that's our biggest strength, is when legal issues come up that they may not understand, we try to help them and explain to them. And obviously, there's just lots of questions and research that goes on that we try to be involved in, just to help people navigate the session.
One of the things that if I lived in rural Nevada, I'd be very concerned about is, as the power has shifted to southern Nevada, that so many legislators don't know anything about anything north of Tonopah. Does that concern you too?
It doesn't concern me as much, just because I'm based up here in Washoe County, and so I see most things from that perspective, so I don't get that as much. But I think that one of the biggest things that helps people is when they come up here for session and they see how beautiful it is up here in the Capitol. They see what things are like, and they also have to interact with legislators from those rural areas and try to learn about how diverse the state is. And so I think that obviously the population center, that's going to drive the number of legislators, but I do think that we still have representation from throughout the state. And I think that the people that are from the more rural areas, you know, they do have to be a little louder, but I think they have done their constituents well so far.
Is White Pine County going to get their elementary school?
I hope so. I hope so, because they need it.
They certainly do. I mean, any school that's over 100 years old probably needs some help.
Yes.
All right, let's take another break. We're going to talk politics when we get back.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
Welcome to Story County, where history meets innovation and a pioneering spirit continues to shape our future. At the heart of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, we power the future with global leaders in technology and manufacturing, driving progress that reaches far beyond our county lines. From advanced manufacturing to tech innovation, our industries are creating thousands of quality careers, fueling a vibrant economy that benefits every Nevadan. Our community is our foundation. Be part of a legacy built on bold ideas and boundless possibilities. Story County, helping build Nevada's future.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino during the $150,000 Denim and Diamonds giveaways, with cash and free play drawings every Thursday and Saturday, and $30,000 in grand finale giveaways Saturday, May 31st, including a top prize of $20,000 guaranteed. Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Eva Segerblom. She is the president of the Nevada Justice Association. So interesting days politically. In the governor's race, which of course is already underway, Governor Lombardo obviously running for re-election. The lieutenant governor has said that he will be announcing after it's legally appropriate for him to announce. You've got former Governor Steve Sisolak, who is appearing to throw his hat into the ring. You've got the Attorney General potentially throwing, well, no, he's announced he's going to run. You've also got the Speaker, Steve Yeager, potentially going to run. Your thoughts on a Democratic primary in a state that elected both Donald Trump and Governor Lombardo?
I think any of those candidates or anyone who wins the Democratic nomination for governor is going to have a tough time. I think that Governor Lombardo is popular. He has, shown a willingness to listen to people, and especially throughout this session and last session. And so I think anyone will have a very steep uphill battle against Governor Lombardo.
Do you think it's a mistake for the Democrats not to try and clear the path? I mean, when Senator Reid was alive, I think that was his mission in life, was to clear the way so there was one candidate. Because if you get into a fight where you've got 2 or 3 candidates attacking each other, it costs a lot of money in the primary that could be used in the general. At the same time, there's nobody that's going to run, at least it doesn't appear, against Governor Lombardo.
So I think that things will clear up more before the actual election. I do. I think that you have a lot of people investigating and kind of researching, but when it comes down to it, I don't think there will be more than one strong candidate really putting in the effort and running.
Do you want to put a name to that person?
Not at this juncture.
And a very diplomatic answer, and that is where we have to leave it. It's great to have you back on the program. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Sam.
It's always a pleasure, and we'll be right back.
Carson Valley, it's your place for the good times. Carson Valley.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room of the Nevada Builders Alliance. Coverage of the 2025 legislative session is brought to you by Pro Group Management, Workers' Comp that works for you. NV Energy, proudly serving Nevada, providing electricity to 2.4 million electric customers. The Retail Association of Nevada, looking out for business. And by Story County, helping build Nevada's future.
Thanks for watching Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from Carson City, from the headquarters of the Nevada Builders Alliance. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching.